Kate Mulefalcha. Welcome to Irish Granny Helen. Today is June 12th, and I wanted to take a minute to honor the life and the sacrifice of the death of Medgar Evers, who died on June 12th, 1963. He was a civil rights activist, and I'd like to talk just a little bit about his life. He was born July 2nd, 1925 in Decatur, Mississippi. He was one of 5 children. The family owned a small farm, and his father also worked at a sawmill. This is unbelievable. I mean, it's true, but it's hard to wrap your brain around. These kids walked 12 miles a day to a segregated school. And eventually he did earn his high school diploma. In 1943, when he was 17, he joined the Army. He served in the Segregated Transportation Corps. In other words, they allowed Black men to be cooks, but also to drive trucks. He participated in the Normandy invasion on D-Day. He was part of the Red Ball Express, which was a group of transportation people who brought supplies to the front lines. Great risk to their own lives. He witnessed Black soldiers that were treated as equals by the Free French forces, and he compared that to the segregation and mistreatment and discrimination in the American military, and he was angry. He told his brother, Charles, who was also in the military with him, when we get out of this army, we're going to strengthen this thing. Strengthen. I don't know why. Strengthen, like fight it. He received honors and multiple honors, which I won't list right now, but you can look that up, and went back home when he was let out in 46 and attended the all-black, historical Black, Alcorn Agricultural and Mechanical College in Business Administration and got his bachelor's BA in 1952. But in December 24th, 1951, he got married to Merle, I hope I said that right, Merle Beasley. They went on to have 3 children. He became an insurance salesman and became extremely active right away in the civil rights movement to end segregation. He meant what he told his brother. He organized boycotts against gas stations that wouldn't allow Black people to use the bathrooms. In 1954, after the Brown versus Board of Education ruling by the Supreme Court, he applied to the University of Mississippi. His application was rejected because of race, as they expected. He was given the job as to be test case by the NAACP. He became the first field secretary for the NAACP in Mississippi. He organized and set up new chapters around the state. He worked with James Meredith's efforts to enroll at the University of Mississippi and encouraged encouraged wade-ins, and wade-ins were people wading into the ocean or the river on public beaches to protest segregation of the beaches. He helped to integrate privately owned buses and also helped to integrate the public parks. He led voters' drives, which were very important. Later we'll talk about juries in Mississippi, which were all white, because you had to be registered to vote to be considered to be on the jury, and they just didn't let Black people register. So he organized school boycotts and boycotts at the Mississippi State Fair. He became the target of white supremacists. After Brown versus Board of Education, the racists in Mississippi formed the White Citizens Council to resist integration. There was much hostility directed at Evers. He began to help with the investigation of the killing of Emmett Till, and he was recognized as a very prominent Black leader. May 28th of 1963, A Molotov cocktail was thrown into his house, to the carport of his house. June 7th of 1963, there was an attempt to run over him with a car. He was under constant threat of death. Jackson, Mississippi had a huge white supremacist KKK population. He and his wife had to train their little children what to do in case of a shooting, a bombing, or other attack in their home. He had to be regularly escorted, followed by a couple of FBI cars and a couple of police cars. But one day, the day of his death, his escort never showed up. He didn't have his usual protection, and the question has always been asked, why not? Speculation, and I think you can put two and two together. Wednesday, June 12th, 1963, John Kennedy made a TV address about civil rights. Evers came home from a meeting with the NAACP lawyers about civil rights. He got out of his car carrying a bundle of T-shirts from the NAACP that said, "Jim Crow must go." He was shot in the back with a 1917 rifle. It went right through his heart. He was taken to the hospital by his family. The hospital refused to admit him because of his race. His family explained who he was and that this would be a big deal if they didn't take care of him. And he died 50 minutes later, 3 weeks before his 38th birthday. He was the first Black man allowed into a white hospital in Mississippi. He was buried at Arlington Cemetery with full military honors and a crowd of 3,000. Then there was a march of 5,000 people to the funeral home, I guess associated with his funeral, led by Martin Luther King and Alan Johnson, who's another well-known civil rights activist. This was a non-violent protest met by armed cops in riot gear. KKK fertilizer salesman named Byron Della Beckwith was arrested. The all-white jury was hung. There was no verdict. Of course, Black people were excluded from the jury system. His wife waited patiently for the old judge to go away and a new judge to come in. And in 1994, Della Beckwith was retried. They had to exhume Evers' body for autopsy. On February 5th, 1994, this Della Beckwith character was convicted and given life. And he died January 21st, 2001, 80 years old, in prison. After his death, Evers received many accolades, many posthumous honors. His wife went on to become a well-known, effective activist in her own right. And in 2009, a Navy ship, the USNS Medgar Evers, was named after him. His wife said he answered the call and the fight for freedom, dignity, and justice, not just for his people, but for all people. And recently his name has come up again in the news, not only because it's the anniversary of his brutal assassination, but because of the actions of the recent administration, namely Pete Hegseth, who is very anti-diversity, anti-inclusion, anti-equality. He had the Department of Defense remove Medgar Evers' profile from the Arlington Cemetery website. And also, as you know, the other day I talked about Harvey Milk, somebody I personally admire enormously. There was a list of names of people who had the honor of Navy ships named after them in the past. And Hegseth told the Department of Defense, he told the Pentagon, the Navy, whoever, to take those names off and replace them. Those names are Harvey Milk, Lucy Stone, an abolitionist, Dolores Huerta, who fought for workers' rights with Cesar Chavez, Thurgood Marshall, first African-American justice of the Supreme Court, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Harriet Tubman, and Medgar Evers. So I hope we all just take a moment today and honor a young man who was gunned down at a very young age for the perceived crime of trying for equality. That we don't go backwards is my sincere hope. And I will attempt in my membership to pursue this story a little bit farther soon. Thank you for watching. Slángafoil. Slánte.